Well, good morning and happy Wednesday. So, Greg tells me that if he loses his job again in this economy and at this age, he has no idea what he'll do. Kirsten is always fretting and anxious about her kids. Brad doesn't like to be alone because when he is, his mind starts to go to things that he doesn't want to think about. Sarah is worried that she's never going to find love. Amber is worried that she's not yet pregnant, and Ashley is worried that she is. I've changed the names, but you get the idea. Lots of people, including people that show up at Christ Church, any of the campuses, put their game face on and they act as though things are a little bit better than they are, and leaves you or all of us thinking that everyone else's life is working better than mine is. Look, the topic continues to be anxiety because it's an anxious age and there's lots of anxious people. And Paul writes about it, Philippians chapter 4. He opens talking about peace, but then he moves on to talking about anxiety. And I've been on this topic for a couple days. I've mentioned some of the general ideas about anxiety, the different levels and the different causes. I've talked about some of the ways forward. And I started by saying a saving relationship with Christ is first. And then we talked about friends. And then talked about rejoicing. I want to mention just one more today. There's actually a few more coming the rest of this week, but one today. And this is gentleness or moderation or forbearance or a radical evenness. In Philippians 4, Paul says, verse 4, "Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evidence to all the Lord is near." And then he goes on, "Don't be anxious about anything, but in everything with prayer and supplication. Let your requests be made known unto God, and the peace that surpasses all understanding will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." So when you find different translations using different words that often, and there's just, again, gentleness, forbearance, moderation, stability, all these different terms. One of them, I think, talks about softness. What that's code for is that we don't have the right English word. It just doesn't exist. And so people, different translation committees are trying to find the word that's closest. So the ESV and the NIV suggest that their suggestion suggests that Paul is writing to Euodia and Syntyche and saying, look, just calm down a little bit. Be a little bit more moderate. Don't be so divisive. Find a way to get along. I'm a little bit more in a different camp, and that's the camp that says what Paul is calling us to is actually something bigger, and it's not just to these two women, it's to all of us. And he's saying we should have a radical stability or a radical evenness. And this is something that says, don't be so focused on the last 2 minutes that you're really excited because your team won, or you're really defeated because the last phone call was bad. And instead, that the grace of God, our relationship with God, our eternal perspective is going to moderate both the high highs and the low lows. So we can be excited when good things are happening, but we don't go over the top. And we can be disappointed when bad things happen, but we're not crushed. So I think Jesus picks up a little bit on this. In Luke 10, when the disciples have come back, he sent them out 2 by 2 preaching, and they come back, and this is the first trip, and they're they're very excited. And they say, even the demons are subject to us. And they're they're up. And Jesus says, well, that's great, but that's not the thing to be excited about. Be excited that your name is written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And so I think that there's an opportunity that comes from a relationship with God to help us have that radical evenness, the stability that celebrates the good and is disappointed and laments the bad, but it doesn't pull us into anxiety or a manic state in either side. So we'll continue to think about anxiety tomorrow. Have a good day.